here today with Dr. Aris Winger, who is the faculty advisor of the newly formed Men of Color Alliance and assistant math professor here at Emory Henry College. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you very much.
How did this new organization get started?
The organization got started out of a lyceum that we had, Many Cultures, One Community, in honor of the birthday of Martin Luther King Jr. And that was a very productive lyceum, and I think it was productive because it had created an atmosphere of discussion about diversity that we had not had for a long time at the college. And so shortly after that, some students came by to my office and they said, well, we would like to form a group that talks more about these issues. One of the things that I said at the end of that lyceum was that one of the ways that we can continue to be productive about this, continue the productivity of this lyceum, is if we continue to keep the discussion going. And that's something that they wanted to do.
Specifically, what issues?
The issues, particularly the issues of diversity, particularly those in terms of race. I would say that there's some students here who I care a lot about, who have very clearly said that they haven't seen someone who wasn't their race until like the age of 9 or 10. And so what are the implications of that? There are many implications of that, but one is that we have a number of students here who have not been in diverse populations and don't realize that there's a tremendous value from that. So,
how do you think that affects the individual?
Oh, when they're not part of it? Oh, well, so because when an environment is not diverse, then you miss out on diverse opinions. And you miss out on diverse points of view. And so when you do that, then you are limiting, you're not purposely doing it, but you are limited by one particular point of view. And when you look at the successful people in our society, they have different points of view about many things. And I think that comes from the fact that they have talked with different types of people across race and across experience. And that diversity leads into just a level of intelligence that I don't think you could get otherwise.
Right. How have you personally been affected in that learning and that environment?
In a diverse culture?
Sure.
Because I know that there are some experiences I've come across that if I were not in a diverse environment, I could not have possibly attained. A group. I mean, if you just go down to my office and just look at my wall is a diverse group of people. I have a number of pictures up on my wall. I invite anyone to come down and look at it. And I get more value from that than I think I could possibly realize. That having friends from India, having friends from Pittsburgh, having friends from DC, having friends from all over the place, from Iran, I often don't even consider how important that is to my own development, but it is. And
right.
If I had only had friends from Washington, D.C., there's where I grew up, I can't even imagine how much of a different person I would be.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're talking today about making new friends. Why is it that people get so freaked out when you start talking race?
Yes.
Why do you think that is?
Well, it's a sensitive topic, and it's a sensitive topic, I think, for a number of reasons. One of those reasons is because we have not talked about it the right way. Now, we can go and say that we've talked about it superficially, and we talk about this in the MOCA meetings a lot, that our main criticism about the talks about race and about diversity are very superficial talks. And what do we mean by superficial? Superficial means that you're talking without risk. And so when I'm talking to you right now, and I'm talking without risk, then I can continue to say, okay, we need to fix this problem, that problem, but I'm going to tell you now that I have a problem with race, right? And so I have an issue with it, and I have a problem with it, and one of my problems is that I get worried when I'm driving down the highway, and I'm worried about being pulled over. That's a risky statement for me to say, but it's necessary. I have to say that. And I have to say that because in order for us to have a real discussion about it, then I have to be vulnerable, and you have to be vulnerable. And that's not superficial. But we spent decades talking superficially about race and diversity, and in order for that to stop, then we have to be very serious about it.
This is my opportunity to ask you a risky question.
Okay.
What is the difference between me, a
Yeah.
white male,
Yeah.
saying the N-word,
Yes.
and a black young man saying the N-word that is my same age?
That's a very risky question, indeed. Let me give you a risky answer. What's the difference? The difference is that we are not ready as a society. The word carries so much weight. I appreciate your question, by the way. The word carries so much weight at this point. We have yet to talk about it at a level that allows us to be able to deal with the conversation. So I think it's a great question. However, again, I'm going to be very honest and risky and say that I don't want you to say it because I have not dealt with the issue of you being able to say it. So that when you say it, immediately all of these emotions come to me about hate, anger, change, bondage, all of these things come to me about that. How do I resolve that? That's not only my problem, that's your problem too, by the way.
Right.
So how do we resolve that? We resolve that by talking very honestly about it. I mean, that's deeply important. That's the first step we have to do is talk about it.
But why can the black men say it?
And the reason, and again, this is my only opinion, the reason why the black men can say it is because there's some level of the black individual having the right to say it. Because who is it offensive to when he says it? It's very hard for you to be offended by it if it's so. There's some, and I think there are many reasons, but that's one of them, that it's not going to be seen as offensive. And by the way, if people didn't realize this, there's a history of a particular race of people saying it to another particular race of people and it being offensive.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
I mean and this is 3 decades ago. So 4 decades ago. So we haven't gotten over that, and the reason is because we haven't talked about it. So you can't say it, I can say it, and clearly there's something fundamentally wrong with that.
Right. Excellent risky answer.
Thank you.
How do you think the national issues relate here at Emory Henry College?
Well, we're part of this nation, first of all. And the second thing is that I think we all see the television, and Barack is running for president and all of these things. And so we're barraged with these issues whether we like it or not. And so the issue of race, even though we're in a place where it's very homogenized, the issue of race is not going to, and diversity is not going to go away. It's here, it's embedded in who we are as people. Some people I think are so militant as to say that everything is about race. I'm not willing to go that far. But there's no doubt that when someone looks at me, someone looks at Wendy, someone looks at anybody, then they see someone who is of a particular race or a woman, or so those issues cannot be escaped.
Right. Real quickly, who all can join the Men of Color Alliance?
Men of color can join, and the thing that needs to be made very clear is that everyone has a color. You have a color, I have a color, and any man can join.
Can women join?
Women are not allowed to join, and you said only have a few minutes or a few seconds. I don't know if I have enough time, but let me just say that the reason that is because the types of issues that are discussed in the group are those that are unique to the situation of men of color. And that is a unique situation in this country, along with the unique situation of women in color. So we encourage the women of color to form their own group to talk about their particular issues.
Right.
There's no doubt that in an environment with the men of color, that there's some issues that would be not sidetracked, but would go off track if there were women there, dealing particularly with the issues of men. So we make it men of color.
When are the meetings?
The meetings are Thursdays at 8 p.m. in Miller 116, right next to my office, no coincidence.
All right.
And Sundays at 6:30 p.m.
All right, you heard it first here on EHC-TV.
Thank
Dr.
you very
Winger, thanks
much.
for your time today.